Welcome back to Meet the Press Daily. We're live here in Atlanta and around the country. Republicans don't seem to be reckoning with why their party lost the White House and Senate in 2020. I'd argue actually neither party has fully reckoned with what happened in 2020. But on the Republican side, maybe that's because many in the party are pushing President Trump's baseless allegations that they lost because of voter fraud, not because of whatever they were selling the voters. And they're still relitigating that. It's hard to look at why you lost when you can't admit you did lose. But one Republican in this state who's been looking to move on is Georgia's Lieutenant Governor, Geoff Duncan. He's the author of the book GOP 2.0, How the 2020 Election Can Lead to a Better Way Forward for America's Conservative Party. Well, I want to start with that last thing you say, America's Conservative Party. You talk to my friends at the Dispatch, and they're starting to question whether this current Republican Party is a conservative party, or at least the Trump version.
Well, look, I think that it's time for real conservative leaders to step up and put cast a vision forward for America instead of complaining about the past. I think that's going to be the important turning point for the Republican Party. Is conservative values work? I think this country is a majority center-right, and we just need to put those on display. I mean, that's certainly what the last election cycle was about. We forgot to do that.
I was just going to say there hasn't been this after-action report. You know, frankly, I would argue Democrats didn't fully reckon with the idea they won the White House but lost seats in the House. Maybe you need to figure out why that happened. Losing the popular vote for the last 5 presidential elections, you're here in a state where I think you're seeing why this is happening, suburban Atlanta. What are some of the changes you would propose to be more competitive in the suburbs here in Atlanta?
So I use an acronym called PET Project, Policy, Empathy, and Tone. And I think we as Republicans just need to start reminding folks of the policies that work and the policies that we stand for. Probably a couple of policies that we need to move our feet a little bit on. You know, if we talk about immigration, we can't just talk about border security without talking about 16 million undocumented folks. And I think our tone has got to be better because the issues matter, right? I sit here and look at this city landscape, and the city's riddled with crime. In just a matter of weeks, a few politicians said defund the police, and it sent 500 cops running for the door. And now we're going to take nearly a decade to probably get this city back from crime. Those are real issues that matter, and inflation, all the other issues are out there. I think that's a winning subject for us.
Look, you're not running for re-election. You're not running for another office, and I think partially, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think we spoke on previously. It seemed to be because you didn't think the party was ready for your message right now. That you wasn't going to be, why bang your head against the wall, I guess.
Yeah, I want to lay some important groundwork. I mean, the reason to not run for re-election here in Georgia, I love the job of Lieutenant Governor. It truly is a rewarding job, and our families enjoyed the time in office. But I want to have a conversation with America. I think it's time to heal and rebuild this party, and I want to start focusing on the issues that I think a majority of Americans care about. And so that's what this is about. GOP 2.0 is about it's an excuse to have a conversation all over America.
All right. But here's the awkward part. You're walking away. The 2 leading candidates replacing you. One wants to ban drop boxes and says need to continue to investigate the 2020 election. And the one that was endorsed by Donald Trump wanted to see an alternative elector slate. Like, the 2 people vying to replace you are living in another alternative universe.
So I'm not writing their speeches. I'm staying focused. I've got nearly 12 months left on my term. We're in the middle of our legislature right now, and I'm focused on putting policy over politics. I think that matters, and I hope, and I genuinely feel a gravitational pull towards the policies that matter. You know, one of the interesting things about Donald Trump, as I've watched this, is Republicans were attracted to his fight. I think we need to parlay on that, but we need to fight with a purpose. I need to go fight for that kid's education in the classroom. I need to fight for that next job opportunity. That, to me, is where I think the Republican Party can win.
It was really powerful for me to hear firsthand these sort of what I call, they called themselves reluctant Biden voters. They truly were swing voters. One was a Trump voter. In 16, 2 were third-party voters. And all 3 of them said, stop this election conversation. Like, they hear it and they tune that person out immediately. I get the sense that nobody in the running right now on the Republican side is hearing those voters, are they?
Yeah, I think it's a huge opportunity for us right now, and I don't want to miss another layup and lose another big election, right? I think that there's an opportunity. There's a lot of reluctant Biden voters out there that are watching the train wreck kind of play out day by day by day, whether it was Afghanistan, the border, inflation, COVID response, you name it. There's issues out there. This is our opportunity to put real leadership on display and to really show that we've got better ideas. And if we're going to walk into 24 and beyond as Republicans and expect to get majorities, real majorities, leading majorities, we've got to do it a different way.
You know, I feel like you're, though, also in an awkward spot. You're trying to get people to listen, to do some changing. A lot of times you're not willing to change until you realize the other way didn't work. So in an odd way, the more unsuccessful this version of the Republican Party is in 2022, the more successful you might be in convincing them to go another direction.
You know, I worry that Georgia continues to be the proving ground for good ideas and bad ideas, and I want those good ideas to work. I want to put on display what Brian Kemp is doing in our conservative legislature, all the good things that are happening, our economic development, our hate crimes legislation. I look at these streets below us that just a year and a half ago were riddled with riots, and now we're in a position where we have a hate crimes legislation on the books. These are tough times. We need new leadership. We need bold leadership. We need folks that are willing to step up in front of the big issues.
Are you, though? Let me ask it this way. What's the difference between Kemp and Perdue other than their disagreement on 2020?
One wants to campaign and one wants to lead. Brian Kemp has spent the better part of 3 years leading through some of the toughest situations and has been working hard for 11 million Georgians. I heard you on an earlier segment ask after day one, what's David Perdue's #1 campaign strategy? And it's to try to figure out a way for Georgians not to realize how good Brian Kemp's been, right? I mean, after Donald Trump, what has he got? You know, we have under 3% unemployment. We've got hate crimes legislation out there. We've got probably the best reaction to COVID of any other state out there. We've balanced lives and livelihoods. These are strong records of leadership. And, look, at this point, David Perdue's trying to take a bite out of Brian Kemp. He's carrying somebody else's water. I think it's a mistake, but hopefully Brian Kemp is able to be strong enough and to be able to show up in the general election and beat Stacey Abrams.
What's sort of a head scratcher to me is I talked to plenty of Republicans and even those close to David Perdue in and around the runoff who laid the entire defeat at Donald Trump's feet. That Donald Trump successfully divided the party enough that in a closely aligned election, you lose a couple thousand voters to say, he says it's corrupt, I'm not voting. That's the difference between winning and losing.
I spent 9 weeks trying to spread the message here in Georgia on TV and radio and every other medium I could, trying to say, look, if we don't focus on reminding Georgians of what we're really good at, we're going to lose this runoff. And unfortunately for Georgia and every Republican in the country, we lost the U.S. Senate because we focused on the wrong things. And I believe the issues matter.
I talked to a voter today who didn't like how the election rules worked in 2018, on one side. So has some questions about whether Kemp and Abrams was done fair and square. Here's the other side say, and I'm sitting there going, well, eventually everybody's going to stop believing in elections, period. And I said, what do you do with that? And her answer was, just give me more transparency. Just give me as much transparency as you can. Are we in a weird trap here on election rules here that the party bases are making it to the point where it is going to be hard for people to trust the other side to run an election?
Yeah, look, this whole thing in Georgia around election questions started in 2018. In the election I ran statewide, I had to go meet 11 million Georgians over 2 years. Stacey Abrams called into question her election and sowed seeds of doubt.
She did concede. She didn't do what Donald Trump did. And, that is different, but
lawsuits abound.
Certainly questioned how the election was conducted.
She sowed the seeds of doubt, and then the former president did it in 2020, and now the current president's doing it again in 2022. And I'm tired of it. I'm a Georgian. I'm a hardworking Georgian. I know I represent millions of Georgians that just want to go to work and raise their families and stop being used as a political pawn in this process. And this just isn't a Republican problem. To listen to Joe Biden come down here and give the speech he gave, right? His whole campaign was centered around being the great uniter. And his comments were repulsive. He essentially called a majority of Americans, compared to some of the most racist characters in our history. And it's just wrong. Whether he was a Republican or a Democrat, that's wrong to do as the leader of this country.
And the frustration, the left will say, but Trump was worse. And I do hear this, right? I hear those on one side will say, yeah, well, he's doing it now too, so what's it matter? Those on the other side will say, hey, he's been worse at it, so why are you lecturing us? It does feel like we're just defining decency.
Yeah, I think we're coming to a breaking point in America, right? We don't have a voting rules problem. We have a politics problem. And the politics are we're letting the outside 5 or 10% drive our messaging. And quite honestly, it's going to get us nowhere. I hope America's in the process of waking up and wants to put adults in the room to run this country.
All right. Mr. Lieutenant Governor, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
And thanks for hosting us as well.
Absolutely.
All right. We'll be right back. We got more of the special edition of Meet the Press Daily as we look ahead to President Biden's major press conference later this afternoon on his last day of his first year in office.